This video is brought to you by Flow Chargers. Check them out for all your EV charging needs. Hey everybody, I've got such a fun video for you today because Mercedes has flown me out to beautiful Germany to check out the all-new Mercedes-Benz EQB, the all-electric luxury crossover. And in this video, we are going to do a full tour of the EQB on the exterior, the interior, show you all the cool gadgets and gizmos, and talk about how much it's going to cost. Now, what is the EQB? Well, currently in the Mercedes lineup, there's a model called the GLB, which is this really squared-off, small, compact crossover. And the EQB is the electrified version of that, so it shares the same wheelbase, and it shares the same overall design, and that is one of my favorite parts about this new model, because the GLB is such a practical, useful vehicle with this vertical rear end, and the EQB gets that same feature. Now, a lot of new crossovers are sloping in the back. They're trying to be coupes, but not this model. It's embracing the squared off, practical cargo hauling capability, which is what SUVs should be known for. Now, even though it is fairly similar in design to the GLB, there are several noticeable differences. Let's start out in the front. So check out that grille. Of course, this is a fully electric vehicle. It doesn't need the same cooling capability as the gasoline GLB, so we've got a flattened out front end for more aerodynamics, and the overall aero profile is better on the EQB than the GLB. So it drops from 0.31 to just 0.28, and the main deciding factors in that are the flatter front end and the battery is completely flat underneath, which aids in aerodynamics. Now, we do have different headlights. We've got a slightly more rounded nose, and in the Mercedes emblem, you'll see these little lines. That's because this is heated in the winter. We've got sensors behind here that can't be obstructed by snow, and Mercedes has thought about that by heating the three-pointed star. Now, this is a German spec car, and as such, there's a few features which we're not going to be getting on the US model, starting with these wheels. These are 20-inch wheels, but in the States, we're getting an 18-inch wheel and a 19-inch wheel. The 18 is standard, and a little bit more aerodynamic than what you'll find on this 20-inch profile. So from the side, very flat, very utilitarian, roof bars up top, which is nice. And then over here, you're going to find the charging port for the EQB. This one's locked. We'll come over to this one, and I'll show you what that looks like. So push in, and that reveals the port for charging up this vehicle. Now, of course, we're in Europe, so they have a slightly different connector, but it'll be a J1772 in the US with the CCS connector down there below that. I think we should pop the hood and see what is powering this model. Now, in the US, we are getting two versions, the EQB 300 and the EQB 350. Now, the 300 has right around, I'm looking for the catch, there it is, right around 230 horsepower, and then the EQB 350, well, that's closing in on 300 horsepower, and both models in the States are going to come standard with dual motors and all-wheel drive, so a motor in the front and a motor in the back. 0 to 60 on the EQB 350 is said to be right around 6 seconds, so it's a pretty potent little vehicle in terms of acceleration. Now, when you open up the hood, you don't find a front trunk. You have access to your 12-volt battery, and then they don't cover anything up, which is kind of a unique decision. It's all exposed, all out in the open. What is nice, though, is that you can pop the hood on this model, unlike the EQS, which is a dealer-only thing. On the EQB, they give you the normal pop, and you can open it up and check out what's going on underneath the hood. Now, here in Europe, there's also a front-wheel drive model, which we're not getting in the States. And Europe also has a couple of different battery configurations. So there's a 66.5 kilowatt-hour battery here, but in the US, we're only getting the 70.5 kilowatt-hour battery. Now, range-wise, no official EPA numbers yet. In Europe, on the WLTP cycle, this vehicle is rated at right around 420 kilometers on a single charge. So what's that, like 260 miles? So hopefully we'll have some more information soon on what the US spec one will do. Typically, the EPA cycle is a little bit more pessimistic than the WLTP, so our US number might be a little lower, but I would guess probably somewhere in the 230, 240 mile range. That's going to be my prediction, but we'll have those numbers shortly. All right. I think it's time we check out the interior of the EQB. Now, we are going to get several different specs and configurations. Pricing starts in the mid $50,000 range, right around 54, 55 grand. and then goes up from there. But this interior feels very, very premium. So I love the seats on this configuration. We've got this contrasting stitching with this center portion in this clothy material, but it feels very youthful, very, very modern in a lot of ways. I think it looks great. The steering wheel, classic Mercedes-Benz. It's leather wrapped. It's got a slightly flat bottom with these silver accents throughout. Once again, a very high quality feeling unit. And as we step inside, let's go ahead and check out some of the cool gadgets and gizmos. So it does have a traditional start button. So we're going to put our foot on the brake, key in the pocket, fire it up. There it goes. Comes to life. Of course, no engine note, nothing like that. Let's close the door. Seat controls for other Mercedes products up here on the door. We got our heated seat controls. Let's turn this fan down. That's going to blast us out of here if we're not careful. All right, beautiful. So one interesting thing about the steering wheel you might notice right away, we have paddle shifters. And why do you need paddle shifters on a vehicle with a one-speed direct drive? Well, that's a little bit interesting. This vehicle has different regen modes, and you activate them based on the paddle. So there's D-, D+, and then a version called D-Auto, depending on how much regen you want. They say that D-Automatic is the most efficient. Doors open. There we go. So in D-Automatic, what it's going to do is decide based on the conditions how much off throttle regen it's going to get you. So you got D- there, push up on the panel, standard drive, D+, and then if you push and hold the right paddle, it'll go into that D-Auto setting, which is the most efficiently minded setting. Apart from that, next thing you'll notice, dual 10.25-inch screens. Those are going to be standard on the US spec cars. And a very functional interior. If you're familiar with the latest crop of Mercedes-Benz interior, you're probably going to be pretty familiar with this. We got the 3 round air vents in the middle, which looks really good. A little bit too much piano black for my taste, but these air vents are very cool. You twist them to turn them on and off. It's kind of tricky with my left hand. There we go. And then climate controls down here. And I love that we still have hard climate controls for fan speed, for temperature. It hasn't gone to weird touch sliders, nothing like that. It's just simple, easy to use climate controls. We've got our wireless charger down here, dual cup holders with these little enlargers so that you can have them fit larger bottles and beverages. And then we've got some harder controls down here. We've got a little pad for operating the touchscreen there, home buttons, the volume scroll, which is quite nice, parking cameras there, parking sensors. And then if we push this, we've got all of our different drive modes, traction control on and off, assistance settings, we got some favorites there, and then we've got this little pad to kind of rest your hand when you are using that system. The center, dual opening setup there, and then down here we'll actually find our USB connectivity, little 12-volt power outlet, and then this one does not come equipped as configured with the sunroof, but it will be an option. Drive selector, as per other Mercedes, up here in the column, down for drive, up for reverse, push in for park. Interior material qualities feel good, and I love that the greenhouse is big in this vehicle. So the EQB has one of the best views out of the car of just about any vehicle in this class. You got these big windows, the belt line is pretty low. Highly underrated feature of this car compared to a lot of other crossovers. It's very easy to see out of, and I definitely appreciate that. Now, if you look at the gauge cluster, right, that's going to be configurable as well, depending on how you want to see the world. So we can set up for navigation, we can set it up for various displays, we can change the settings there, which I think is pretty nice. Let's go back home. There we go. Let's go into, what am I trying to do here? There we go. So we can see the different assistance technologies. We can see the different trip computers, control the radio, different styles and displays worth of gauge cluster. So the understated one, my favorite one though is, let me go back here. Styles and display. Let's go into sport. Check this out. That one is my favorite display with the yellow speedometer, and then this is going to be our consumption meter, which is also probably configurable, and it is. So we can have an acceleration meter, we can do consumption, we can see our eco screens, navigation. So Mercedes does such a good job with allowing you to configure the screens with everything that you want. And that's the advantage of having digital displays, right? You're not stuck with traditional needles. So let's check out the rear seat, see how the rear seat space is. Now I am 6 feet tall. This is my driving position. Very much a flat floor. The battery does live underneath the floor. And look at all the space, lots of legroom, and even headroom wise, plenty of headroom. And this vehicle is also going to be available in a 7-seater configuration. Now, I don't believe that this one, as equipped, is the 7-seater, but fold down the rear seats, and in the back, you can get it with 2 additional seats as well, if you want the ultimate in GLB practicality. Power liftgate by pushing in on the star there. View blocker back here. And then underneath the floor is your charge connector here in Europe. That's unconfirmed whether or not that's going to be included in the States quite yet. And then we've got our spare tire kit like that. And the rear floor does sit ever so slightly higher compared to the gasoline model to accommodate the battery, but you don't really lose that much cargo space. So not too much of a compromise in cargo capacity from going gas to electric. Now, charging speed wise, this is a peak of right around 100 kilowatts on a DC fast charger, but they're claiming a 10 to 80% charge in right around 30 minutes. So it should be pretty quick on a road trip, but of course we'll be sure to test that and see what the charging curve is really like. Now, availability, this is coming to the States here in just a few weeks, so it's going to be hitting dealers very, very shortly. Starting price in the mid $50,000 range. Now let me know what you guys think. Would you buy this over something like a Tesla Model Y? Be sure to leave me a comment, and we'll see you in the next video.